Welcome to an incredible journey of faith, doubt, and deliverance. Today, we dive deep into the story of Gideon, a man who rose from obscurity to become a hero of Israel. It's a story of an unlikely leader called by God in the time of Israel's greatest need. Let's see how the power of faith, combined with divine courage, can turn even the most uncertain into a true leader. Once again, Israel found itself at the mercy of its enemies. The Midianites raided their lands, stole their food, and left the Israelites in despair. They had lost hope, feeling abandoned and helpless, crying out to the Lord to deliver them. In times of suffering, we often wonder, has God forgotten us? Israel felt this deeply, yet God was still listening. He was about to choose a most unlikely hero. In a hidden wine press, a young man named Gideon threshed wheat, trying to save what little food his family had left.
If only I were stronger. If only I could do something. I can't keep hiding. But what could I do? Who am I to make a difference?
Like many of us, Gideon felt small, unseen, and powerless. But God had a plan beyond what Gideon could see. Even in his doubts, God was calling him to step forward.
The Lord is with you, mighty warrior.
Mighty warrior? If the Lord is with us, then why has all this happened to us? Where are his miracles?
Gideon, like many of us, struggled to see beyond his doubts. But God's choice isn't based on our strength. It's based on his purpose. Gideon was being chosen, not because he felt ready, but because God saw something within him.
Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?
But how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest, and I am the least in my family.
I will be with you. You will strike down all the Midianites.
God's call often comes when we feel least prepared. Gideon wasn't chosen for his confidence, but for his willingness to obey. In every moment of doubt, God offers the assurance that we don't stand alone. Though the angel of the Lord had promised to be with him, Gideon's faith wavered. He wanted assurance, a sign from God that he was indeed chosen to save Israel.
How can I, the least in my family, lead Israel? Is this truly God's will or just my own imagination?
Seeking proof of his calling, Gideon prepared a meal offering, meat, bread, and broth, as an act of faith and humility.
Place the meat and bread on this rock and pour out the broth.
This sign confirmed to Gideon that he wasn't alone. God had indeed called him, reassuring him in this moment of vulnerability. Though the sign had been powerful, Gideon's doubts lingered. In a bold move, he asked God for another sign, using a fleece.
Lord, if you are truly with me, let the fleece be wet with dew while the ground around it stays dry.
The next morning, Gideon finds the fleece soaked with water, enough to fill a bowl, while the ground remains dry. He looks amazed, but still cautious. Even after seeing this miracle, Gideon wasn't yet fully convinced. Perhaps, like many of us, he needed reassurance for each step forward.
Please don't be angry with me, Lord. Let me make one more request. This time, let the fleece remain dry while the ground is wet.
The following morning, Gideon finds the fleece completely dry amidst the dewy ground, his face reflecting a mix of awe and humility. God, in his patience, gave Gideon the reassurance he sought. Through each test, he affirmed that Gideon was chosen for a purpose greater than himself. With newfound courage, Gideon gathered a large army, but God had other plans. This battle would not be won by numbers, but by faith. His expression is hopeful, yet hints of doubt show through as he reflects on the daunting battle ahead against the massive Midianite forces.
You have too many men, Gideon. I cannot let you defeat the Midianites with these numbers, or Israel will boast, saying, "My own strength has saved me."
So, God commanded Gideon to allow any fearful soldiers to leave.
Anyone who trembles with fear may leave Mount Gilead.
With many soldiers visibly anxious. Finally, 22,000 men turn and leave, leaving only 10,000 behind. Only 10,000 remained. Gideon, though shaken, trusted that God had a plan, even if it didn't make sense. Gideon's troubled expression as he watches the soldiers depart. He looks up, silently praying for strength and clarity, his face a mix of fear and determination.
There are still too many. Take the men down to the water, and I will test them there. Those who lap the water with their hands to their mouths will stay. The rest shall go.
God's instructions were clear, but Gideon couldn't help but feel the weight of his dwindling forces. Most soldiers kneel to drink directly, but a select few scoop water with their hands. Only 300 drink this way, standing alert.
With these 300 men, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands.
Gideon was left with only 300 men, a tiny force against a vast army, but God's power is made perfect in weakness.
With God on our side, we will overcome. Let us prepare for the battle ahead.
Through each reduction, Gideon's faith was tested. God's purpose became clearer. This victory would showcase divine power, not human strength. Gideon and his 300 were now ready to face the impossible. Only 300 men stood ready to face thousands in the valley below. It seemed impossible, but God had a plan beyond understanding.
If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp and listen to what they are saying. You will be encouraged.
Gideon, hesitant but obedient, takes his servant Purah and approaches the enemy camp. Gideon, hiding in the shadows, overheard 2 Midianite soldiers discussing a strange dream.
I had a dream. A loaf of barley bread rolled into the camp and struck a tent with such force that it overturned and collapsed.
This must mean the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, has come to destroy Midian. God has given him victory over us.
Gideon's face shows relief and awe. He kneels in silent praise, his confidence renewed by this divine encouragement. With his faith bolstered, Gideon returned to his men with a strange plan that only God could make work: torches, jars, and trumpets as their weapons.
When I blow my trumpet, do exactly as I do. Break the jars, hold up the torches, and shout loudly.
Gideon's men carefully lighting their torches and covering them with clay jars to keep the light hidden. Under the cover of darkness, Gideon's 300 took their positions, surrounding the camp. At the signal, the silence broke.
For the Lord and for Gideon.
Gideon's soldiers follow, smashing their jars, lifting their torches high and shouting. The Midianites, waking to blaring trumpets and flashing lights, panic. They believe a vast army surrounds them and begin to turn on each other in confusion. In their confusion, the Midianites fought each other. Not a single sword from Gideon's men was needed. God's strategy, strange as it seemed, brought victory. With the Midianite army in retreat, Gideon and his men were not done. They pursued the remaining forces, determined to capture the Midianite kings, Zebah and Zalmunna. Despite their victory, tension arose between Gideon and the tribe of Ephraim, who felt slighted for not being called earlier.
Why didn't you call us to join the fight from the start? We could have helped in the victory.
What you've achieved is greater than anything we've done. God gave you victory over the Midianite princes, Oreb and Zeb. How can what we did compare?
Gideon's humility and diplomacy calmed the Ephraimites, uniting Israel in their victory rather than allowing division to creep in. Though exhausted, Gideon and his men continued the chase, refusing to rest until the Midianite kings were captured. As they passed through Succoth and Peniel, Gideon asked the people for help.
Please, give my men some bread. They are exhausted, and we are still pursuing the Midianite kings.
Why should we help you? You haven't even captured Zebah and Zalmunna yet.
When the Lord gives them into my hands, I will return and teach these towns a lesson.
Gideon finally cornered the Midianite kings. Weak from their relentless pursuit, he and his men readied for the final showdown.
Now you have caught us, but you look tired, Gideon. Do you truly have the strength to kill us?
For the lives you have taken, you will now face justice.
With the death of the Midianite kings, Gideon's relentless faith in God's calling brought peace to Israel once more. Though many doubted him, God guided him to victory. Israel respected and honored as God's chosen leader who restored peace.
Rule over us, Gideon. I will not rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you.
Gideon's story is a reminder that God uses unlikely heroes and works through faith, even amid doubt. From fear to faith, Gideon rose to become a mighty warrior because he trusted in the one who called him.